A very good day to all of you out there. This is the Friendship News Hour presented to you by Bummer Dude Media. Today is October 7th, 2022. His name is Alex Kenzie. My name is Kanye West. Here to tell you that white lives indeed do matter.
Man, that dude knows how to make headlines, bro. And I love him. I love Kanye.
Oh, yeah, he does. Oh, I know.
Say it here publicly.
I know. I don't have an opinion on any of this. I just love the fallout. The reaction is the art.
Yeah, I looked into more what he was saying, and like he's Kanye, so he is always crazy. But name one genius that ain't crazy, as he says. But he basically said that like he was like how Black Lives Matter as a movement was a scam. Maybe not necessarily like the thing behind it, but itself was a scam. I think they scammed like over $80 million from people. Candace Owens is actually coming out with a documentary all about it soon.
Oh, it looks great.
Yeah, it looks really good.
Looks awesome.
But so he was kind of like saying, and that she also was doing it with him. So maybe it was promotion for her movie or something, part of that. But that was itself was a scam, but also like in all of that, you know, it got lost that white lives also matter alongside black ones. So I thought it was interesting. It's the black community did not love it very much, but some people still are supporting him, but I could see why. But in the back of my head, I feel like he still has these political aspirations. So, you know, he's going to have to try to get some of those Trump voters eventually. And he went on Anderson Cooper last night on Fox and was talking about the shirt and
Tucker Carlson. What did I say? Anderson Cooper? Yeah.
What a loser.
Anderson Cooper's on CNN.
Yeah, okay.
In 60 Minutes.
He definitely didn't go there.
No, he didn't. Yeah, you know, it's funny. I've purposefully omitted Tucker Carlson content from this show. The people hate Tucker Carlson, racist, homophobe, bigot, whatever, all of the pejoratives they throw at him. And he certainly is a firebrand, to put it lightly. And I don't agree with a lot of the things that he says. He has a lot of heavy-handed stuff on his show, but he also is very fair about a lot of things. He's actually the person that when this whole BLM stuff started to really, really take its shape in 2020, after the death of George Floyd, he came on his show and he started to present data in the form of unarmed the killings of unarmed black men by police, and showed that the numbers were extraordinarily low. Certainly low enough to not warrant the reaction from this one person's death. And that really got me to question what the heck was going on during this whole time. And as we are now all kind of what's being brought to light now is that this whole BLM movement in the organization itself was indeed a scam. I mean, a fraud's a fraud, no matter what the sentiment is behind it, right? Like right. A fraud is a fraud, and they defraud a lot of people, a lot of very lazy, rich white liberals who felt that they had to, quote, do something. So they gave money to the organization BLM. And I'm sure the people behind BLM were just laughing it all to the bank.
Yeah.
And that was part, yeah, man. And yeah, buying houses in LA and on the coast. And yeah, like I said, fraud's a fraud. And that was definitely part of Kanye's message, was like, man, this shit was terrible. And then Tucker Carlson asked him last night, what was the reasoning behind it? Why did you put that on the shirt? And he goes, well, because it's obvious they do.
Right.
And okay.
That's what I'm saying. He's trying to get those Trump voters, baby. He was talking Trump up. He called Trump a god and compared him to I can't even remember who it was, like Jesus or Moses or someone like that. Like he was talking him up, man. So I just love Kanye though, man. I feel like it's like a full-time job defending him these days because of all the shit he says and does and whatever. But it's like I respect his musical genius so much that like I find myself always defending him with all this other shit that he does.
Yeah. Well, and so the whole reason I brought up that whole thing about Tucker Carlson and his history is because I think people will see Kanye on Tucker Carlson without even watching a second of the interview, will make a conclusion in their mind about what that's about. Right.
Yeah.
And, completely lose the room immediately with some people when they say, oh, he's on Tucker Carlson, or even he was on Fox News for that matter. But he's way more intelligent of a man than people give him credit for.
Oh,
I mean,
big time.
far more intelligent of a man. Does he have wild, crazy ideas? Yeah. Is he out of the box about a lot of things? Is he kind of off-putting when he says some things? Absolutely. But listen to him talk. When he was talking about abortion, oh my God. He was so clear and concise with his reasoning that it's like, well, shoot, I can't fault it. I might not have those views, but I can't fault this guy for having them, because if what he's saying is true, then why wouldn't he feel that way, right?
Yeah, right.
And what he was saying about BLM being a scam was like, there's still blood on the streets. So what have they done? What good have they done? Have we made any progress? Mm-hmm. And I would surmise no, that there is still a ton of adversity, and it's mostly racially motivated, and that's all that people really have. To fix an issue, right? To be somebody like Kanye West who wants to put out a shirt that says "White Lives Matter." Well, if you were to look at that with objective lens, you'd be saying, well, shoot, yeah, I mean, you're just trying to bridge two things together, right? But it seems as though that to do something like that is so provocative, because then that would mean that it's taking away from all of the atrocities that have happened, and all of the what is the word I'm trying to think of here? Just the way that people of color in this country have been treated.
I would say, yeah,
in
hundreds of years of fucking discrimination.
Right. And so, but it's true, right? Like it's so. Like, for example, the one thing, and we'll get off this, and I don't want to harp on this, but during Trump's presidency, the one thing that got me to really ask questions about what was going on is when that whole thing in Charlottesville happened. Do you remember that?
No,
Charlottesville. You remember when there was? Okay, so there was a statue. I think it was Robert E. Lee in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Oh,
yeah, Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yep.
And they were going to take the statue down. And so there were protesters coming to say, don't take the statue down. And then there were like white nationalists that came with pitchforks and literal torches. Mm-hmm. And they were protesting, counter protesting. And somebody ended up running into somebody else with a car and killed them. It was really ugly. Right. And this was in the very beginning of Trump's presidency. And he goes out in I forget, I think he was in Trump Tower or something. And he goes out and he says, the only quote from that is that there are, quote, very good people on both sides. And then the media took that and said he's defending these white nationalists. Yeah. When in reality, he disavowed them completely. He dedicated like an entire paragraph to disavowing these people. And then he said there's good people on both sides, and tried to bring people together. And media took it and ran with it one way. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
Right.
Like, I know you don't like Trump, but this is good. Like, when did it become okay to be so one-sided on things? And that was part of, I guess, my awakening to what the hell was going on and the manipulation that was going on behind the scenes.
Well, yeah, and speaking of manipulation, he also touched on, and Kanye did in that Tucker interview, that the Clintons, through his wife's family, the Kardashians, or his wife at the time, were basically like trying to manipulate and use Kanye and Kim as like pawns in their campaign, really, to like gain voters, gain black voters especially. And Kanye said that he was silenced from being able to say that he was a Trump fan by her family, basically, which is, it's just crazy, man. You can't even have a different opinion these days.
Right. And that would be probably seen, like, I don't know whether you believe Kanye is telling the truth there or not, but like that kind of idea that the Clintons or these group of elite rulers are manipulating the masses through these media platforms. It's like, oh, that's conspiracy theory, where it's like you hear these stories and you're like, well, I mean, maybe some of it is, but when you hear this, you can't help but grow just slightly more cynical about the world that we live in, that, Kanye West can't be a Trump supporter. I mean, think of all the shit he got for just wearing a hat.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. But I do respect him. I think he's taken a stance on things that are entirely unpopular, and I certainly don't agree with everything he says. But I love him, and I love that he exists. I think he's essential. I think he's essential to everything that's going on, and good on him. Good on him. I can't speak to his fashion, dude. Look at what I'm wearing. I'm a fucking scrub. I don't know.
Right? We're both in black tees.
Yeah, I don't know.
Man, I'm pumped.
I wish him the best.
We hopped right into it today, though. We didn't. No pleasantries. Fuck all that shit. I'm fired up. To be honest with you, man. I was just over at my dad's house for the last 2 hours arguing flat Earth with him. So
nice.
If I'm feisty today, that's why.
Can you speak on that? Because here's the thing. I am always open-minded about everything. I feel like the people who are flat earthers have a little bit more of an intelligent argument against it. Do they really just believe that the Earth is like completely like flat? Is that really what it is?
There's a lot of different schools, man. He was talking, there's people that believe there's a firmament, which is basically like a huge bubble that surrounds the Earth, which some say contain the sun and moon, which is just fucking ridiculous. And then those people think that the entire universe revolves around us. Like literally around the Earth's firmament. That's
a beautiful metaphor for these people, by the way.
Yeah, right. He's more of the mind, it seems like. He says he's in the middle, but he's not, bro. All I ever see him post is flat Earth content, and when you argue with him, he's always arguing for flat Earth. So what does that tell you? I love him to death, but to me, it seems like his thought is that the Earth is flat. There's an ice wall that surrounds the Earth, and that we're basically all being lied to about space and everything basically, and that like the laws of science are all false, and a lot of other things. We just spent the last 2 hours arguing about it, and the biggest thing I point to when I talk to flat earthers is gravity, because if the Earth is
I was gonna say, did you pick up an object and drop it?
Yeah, that's what I said. I go negative
that.
9.8 meters per second, bro. Come on, that disproves your argument. Unless this is a fucking rectangle and it's completely even underneath it, so that like that is how there's relative gravity around the Earth. But he had he shot back with buoyancy and some other things. How does water always sit flat? And and just a bunch of other things. And he referenced the study where they shot a laser across Lake Michigan from Benton Harbor to Chicago, and that it should dip 240 feet to his calculations. Yeah, I'm looking this stuff up now since I've been home. It was quick, but those calculations I think are wrong, and obviously there's altering elevations within the two cities, so it's just hard. It's hard to, because you can't really definitively say one way or the other. I can, but then he'll just say like that's just based off indoctrination over the last 30 years of my life being told this. But I'm also saying, well, like, with the observable universe, we've never seen a planet that isn't spherical, that doesn't revolve around a greater mass. Like,
okay. So like I said, I am super willing to hear any argument for anything, right? Like if I'm wrong about it, I'm wrong about it. And that's fine with me. I came across this video not too long ago, and I'll share it here. This is all the definitive proof that I need. And I know that it's true because what's being used as the argument here is very sound, basic physics. You may or may not have seen this video. If not, you're in for a treat.
Here's a map of ancient Egypt. I've inserted 2 sticks or obelisks, one up here in Alexandria and one down here in Syene. Now, if at a certain moment each stick casts no shadow at all, that's perfectly easy to understand, provided the Earth is flat. If the shadow at Syene is at a certain length, and the shadow at Alexandria is the same length, that also makes sense on a flat Earth. But how could it be, Eratosthenes asked, that at the same instant there was no shadow at Syene and a very substantial shadow at Alexandria? The only answer was that the surface of the Earth is curved. Not only that, but the greater the curvature, the bigger the difference in the lengths of the shadows. The sun is so far away that its rays are parallel when they reach the Earth. Sticks at different angles to the sun's rays will cast shadows at different lengths. For the observed difference in these shadow lengths, the distance between Alexandria and Syene had to be about 7 degrees along the surface of the Earth. By that I mean, if you imagine these sticks extending all the way down to the center of the Earth, they would there intersect at an angle of about 7 degrees. Well, 7 degrees is something like a 50th of the full circumference of the Earth, 360 degrees. Eratosthenes knew the distance between Alexandria and Syene. He knew it was 800 kilometers. Why? Because he hired a man to pace out the entire distance so that he could perform the calculation I'm talking about. Now, 800 kilometers times 50 is 40,000 kilometers. So that must be the circumference of the Earth. That's how far it is to go once around the Earth. That's the right answer. Eratosthenes' only tools were sticks, eyes, feet, and brains.
Here. That's, I mean, if you can't describe that, if you can't tear that argument down, I don't have any room for flat earthers. I just don't.
Yeah, and it's just tough when you go. I'm like, Dad, I was in a plane last week flying to Germany, 15,000 feet in the air. I'm looking at the curvature of the Earth. He's like, well, they put fisheye lenses on every single window and on the cameras that you see through. And I'm just like,
what is the insidious reason? What is it? That, are they just trying to lull the masses to sleep? And so there's only a select few people who know.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. It's just like, it's the kind of the people that want to, like, everything is a lie. Like, it's all, and it's like, yeah, dude, our governments lie to us. Like, shit happens. NASA does do sketchy shit. And like, there's things I'd be willing to believe, like our moon does not rotate like almost every other satellite does around their planets. Maybe there's something fishy with our moon. Maybe, like, there's questions. There's a ton of questions about the moon landing. And if that was faked, yada, yada. Like, it's not to say that there are, and 9/11 and blah, blah, blah. Like, there's tons of conspiracies where it's good and healthy to ask questions. But when you're like basically by challenging flat Earth, you're challenging almost everything we know about modern day science, relativity, and space all at once, saying it's pretty much all a lie. And it's like, at that point, you're kind of out there for me, I'll hear any argument, but it's like, I've never heard anything that's convincing to me where it could be backed up with real info that wasn't on a flat Earth site.
Right. Yeah, man. And I've said it before, especially talking about like the vaccine and COVID and all that, and trusting science and this, that, and the other, and made the argument that science is purely living organism, right? It is what we test it to be. But the baseline of these tests, the foundation of all of this are laws.
Right.
Things that are immovable. You cannot argue against them because there is no argument. It is always and forever will be until something comes along that disproves it, right? Light shines forever until we figure out that it doesn't.
Right.
Right. So I don't know, man. It's just I am fascinated by these arguments. I'm fascinated by the people who make them and who believe them and who defend them so fiercely.
I was going to say, for our listeners, if anyone knows someone that's truly very flat Earth and knowledgeable about it, and then on the other side, someone that's very knowledgeable about globes, because like I'm saying what I'm saying, but I'm not like incredibly intelligent in this field. You know what I'm saying? I'm referencing a lot of like basic things that make sense to me, but it's like, if we know people, listeners, like, I would love to have an episode kind of just going back and forth, and we can just kind of moderate a debate about it, because it is interesting to talk about. Like, we had a great discussion about it. I don't think either of us is willing to admit one or the other won or lost it, but
yeah,
it's just,
you bet, man.
It's wild.
Switching gears.
Yeah.
Biden. This is how you know it's election season.
Yeah.
Biden has made some wholesale pardons for marijuana possession.
I saw that. That's pretty big. I mean, I'm not the biggest Joe Biden fan, but that's cool. It feels like a card that the administration's holding in their back pocket, using when they need some goodwill with the people. But it is big. It's good policy, right? Like, and I think we owe it to everybody to point it out, because it is good policy. I can't think of anything else that this administration has done that I could consider good policy. But he said he's pardoning all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. He is calling on governors to pardon simple state marijuana possession offenses, so that he doesn't want anybody in federal prison just for possessing marijuana. Yeah.
And then they classify marijuana as at the same level as heroin and more serious than fentanyl. He's asking the Attorney General to initiate the process of reviewing how marijuana is scheduled under federal law. And I say, damn good. About time. Right.
Yeah, I mean, he ran on that.
Right. He did. He ran on this and many other things. And it's good to see that this simple step, I mean, it's such a simple step towards the, at the very least, like decriminalizing holding marijuana or using marijuana. Right. I think that, I think that just the act of holding onto it or just using it is so widely accepted now that it's just archaic isn't a strong enough word for the laws of marijuana that we have in this country. It's
probably more the party he was representing, because I do think maybe like Republicans look at a lot of things like a little more archaically, just in general. But like, I'm surprised this isn't something that Trump did when he was in office, being the businessman that he is, being that if you make it federally legal, it can be taxed, yada, yada. Like, it surprises me that I mean, it doesn't surprise me Biden did this. He ran on it, and it seems like it's a pretty easy thing to actually do once you're in office. But it always surprised me that Trump didn't do that, because it would have gained him a ton of voters in a lot of different communities, and it would have made money for everybody. So it seems like a Trump decision in my head.
Yeah. I often thought about that, and I think he just was playing to the base so strongly that to do something like this would be considered a little bit radical.
Yeah, right.
And I still think that it's not a widely accepted view that marijuana should be legal.
You don't think so?
No.
Like legal in the way that like it'd be decriminalized, or like that it should be able to be recreationally sold everywhere?
Yeah, that.
Okay.
I think that there's still corners of the country, and even myself, like, I don't know that if you go completely in the other direction of legalization, that it's good, right? I don't ever want to tell somebody that they can't do something that they want to do if they understand the risks and they're doing it themselves. But there's a certain aspect of that allows for for any like bad side effect or anything that could be detrimental to somebody, particularly a young growing person that has an undeveloped brain, to say that, oh yeah, weed's fine. Right. I definitely still think that there should be a slight stigma around it, that it is still a mind altering substance and it should be taken seriously in that respect.
Why don't you think that same regard is given to alcohol? Like, I know there's a drink. I mean, yeah, there's a drinking age, but like I was drinking at 14, 15 years old, like, and that's not good for brain cells and your body in general. Like, why? And I know you're pro marijuana in general, like for the most part, like, so I'm not asking you this and that in that vein, but like, why is it that alcohol is just like so widely accepted everywhere? It's sold everywhere. Some states you can't buy it on Sundays or whatever, but like you can pretty much get alcohol anywhere you want. Yet weed is like this huge, big stigma, has this huge, big stigma to it, to the point where we're talking at it now. We're like, well, maybe we can decriminalize it, but we probably shouldn't federally make it legal everywhere. You know, like what is the difference?
Yeah, I think culturally, drawing back, hundreds of years, right? Like half a millennia or more, alcohol has been culturally significant. And I'm not saying marijuana doesn't have a history. Yeah. I'm saying culturally, alcohol is way, way, way more significant, right? Mm-hmm. Going all the way back to the days of Jesus. Mm-hmm. And wine. It's like alcohol has been around for so long. It's so prevalent.
Native Americans are smoking weed, though.
Right. I'm not saying it doesn't have a history. I'm just saying that, like, culturally, alcohol was just more widely accepted. Yeah. During the time when marijuana was banned and outlawed, alcohol was just coming out of prohibition, or was just entering it. And there was, they were having their own fight with alcohol. And I don't know. I just think it's just been more prevalent in our culture.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the only reason.
Yeah, makes sense.
If marijuana wasn't demonized the way that it was in our country, then I don't know that we have this conversation like this today.
Yeah.
And I think it's treated much similarly or even less detrimentally than alcohol. But I think it does have I think it definitely has a much greater effect on young people than like alcohol use.
I would argue that though, because a 16-year-old most likely isn't going to get fucked up, get behind the wheel of a car and like kill somebody if they're high, as opposed,
so let me
as
rephrase
opposed
that.
to the tons of people that
long-term effects. If you start using
there you go.
marijuana at like 15, 16 versus if you start drinking at 15, 16, I think the long-term effects of using marijuana on your development is I think marijuana stunts you a lot more mentally than alcohol does over the long term.
Sure, but you're going to die of kidney or liver disease or something very early if you're if you're a lifetime drinker as opposed to a lifetime smoker. I mean, for sure. Yeah, we know what alcohol does to the body.
Blasted on whiskey until you turn 92, you know? There's got plenty of those people too. But yeah, I do think a healthy skepticism about marijuana use, particularly in young people, is warranted, and I think I think we could do better to kind of heed those warnings a little bit better. But I think because it's been criminalized for so long, and because this movement is predominantly in the youth, right? Like there's way more young people who advocate for the legalization of marijuana than there are other people. I'm not saying that there isn't, but I just feel like there's more energy within the youth
for sure.
So that's going to be where most of that resides. And it's like, well, that's fine. I don't, whatever. Like I said, to each your own. But I just do think we could be, smart about it. And I think that's why there's hesitancy to decriminalize or to make legal marijuana wholesale.
Yeah, but
whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah, right. I think what he said yesterday, what he's asking is them to like reevaluate how they do the schedule, like tier of drugs, because right now, like weed is higher than fentanyl. Right. Which is like, what the fuck? How many people are dying from weed a year compared to fentanyl? Like,
correct.
Maybe some of those need to be relooked at, and maybe as a result of that, it's at least decriminalized. But yeah, I think it'd be a long time before it's like federally legal everywhere. And
that's to me that's good enough.
Yeah, as long as they're letting people out of jail, I feel like.
Right. If you're not getting locked up, if you're not like pushing weight, you shouldn't be locked up.
Yes. Okay, but then, so people will argue. I'm just in like a devil's advocate, argumentative mood today because of my father. But what do you think? So the people that would say no, those people broke the law. Like it was illegal to sell weed or whatever it was at the time that they were locked up. They should face the laws of the time. Like, do you find any credence in that, or do you think like when a law like this changes to where it affects this many people, we're gonna grandfather these people in and allow them to take part of that?
Well, that's how that is our system of law.
Yeah. Is
that you cannot, if you change the law, it does not revert back to everybody that was convicted when the law was in place the way it was. That's why he pardoned these people.
I see what you're saying. Okay,
that's the avenue to do this. You have to get pardoned for it because regardless of how the law changes at the time, you were convicted under the law that was at the time. When the law changes, it does not change your conviction.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I don't know why all law terms are in Latin, and I forget the Latin term for it. But there's a name for this very specific instance, and it's escaping me right now. But
in perpetuity,
no.
Just
that's good. I'm glad that you know that word. Let's talk about Iran for a second. We touched on Iran last week.
Man, Mike sent us that video. That shit was crazy.
Yeah. So we touched on it last week and the reason that these protests have been sparked, and it seems as though they're not subsiding almost at all. So as you can see in this tweet, Iranian schoolgirls remove their compulsory hijab and chant death to the dictator while stomping on the photo of their rulers. That's a great sentiment. I hope, pray that these young girls understand the consequences of their actions in a place like Iran. So in America, that's just fine. You can do that all you want. In Iran, that is not okay. Which is the point of it, right? Like, that's why they're doing it, is because they don't have the voice. They're not allowed to wear whatever they want. They have to wear this face and hair covering, and then they don't want to do it. However, the ruling class is not sympathetic to that at all. What's interesting about this is that it's front of mind for a lot of folks right now. We see it a lot on social media, but I feel like it's not getting a ton of national attention, and I don't understand that. Do you get that same vibe?
Yeah, I definitely do. But there's a lot of shit going on in general right now. So maybe that's part of it, like Ukraine, Russia. I hope we talk about that in a little bit. But like, that seems to have taken like the forefront again, and a couple other things. But like, I do agree, like, it's not getting the attention it deserves, especially in a country that's like so, or predominantly based on our last election, very like liberal and how they think of things. So you would think that this would be everywhere.
Yeah. So one of the theories out there is that the United States is behind this push.
We're pushing all the buttons right now, if that's true,
all
bro.
of them, dude. Jesus. Yeah. So color revolution is what that's called. And the theory is that we're behind it, right? And that's why there's not a ton of media attention, because they don't want it to seem like we're hyper focused on it. However, if it wasn't, like in any other circumstance where it's about women trying to liberate themselves, the American media is all over. I mean, that's gold to them. So it's very curious why it's not a more prevalent story, because it to me, outside of Ukraine, this is the biggest thing going on in the world right now. There's another young woman who has been killed in this saga. Her name is Nika Shakarami. She's 16 years old. She lived in Tehran, and she would be on like Instagram or on the internet, and she would make videos. She was a counterculture, protesting the regime, this, that, and the other. She got taken by the Revolutionary Guard, and then she was returned to her family dead. Her family was forced, is what they're saying, that the family was forced to get on TV and say that the girl was dead because she fell out of a window. And in a video on Twitter, one of the family members was in front of a camera and he wouldn't speak, and then somebody in the background whispered, "Say it, you piece of dirt." And then he made a TV confession about his family member that died, and that she fell out of a window, and that's why she's dead. So that's why it's so tough. And it would be way better if there was global support, and there is, right? Like, there's a ton of showing of support for the women in Iran right now, all throughout the globe. But in America, like, it would be really great if there was like the same push as there was for us in Ukraine. Yeah. Right? Like, we should care way more for women who have zero liberty in a place like Iran than Ukrainians that are, let's face it, man, a lot of them are fucking pieces of shit. Like, Ukrainian is not good. They're only good because they've been invaded, right? It's because their sovereignty has been challenged.
What makes them pieces of shit? I don't follow you there. I don't know enough about it.
Dude, there are countless stories of just like the worst type of human behavior of Ukrainians. Not to mention that a large swath of their military happens to be card-carrying Nazi members.
Yeah, I did hear
You know what
that.
I mean? Like, they're not good people. They're just invaded by a country that we hate. That's the only reason we care about Ukraine. Don't ever get that twisted, right? Like, all these folks on Twitter that want to come at Elon Musk for what he said at his proposal for peace in the Ukraine. Hey, man, don't for a second think that you know any better than anybody else about what's going on in Ukraine if you're not there, if you don't speak the language, if you don't know what's going on, right? And especially if you don't understand the United States' hand in all of this.
So should I take the Ukrainian flag out of my bio?
Nah, keep it up, man. You're good.
Keep it up.
Okay,
cool.
Matter of fact, you should put the flag in your window, and you should put a little sign in your front yard that said we support Ukraine.
I got shirts coming too, so that's good.
Oh, great, excellent. That should go a long way in the war effort here.
Or do you have anything else on Iran? But can we talk that?
Yeah, sure. Let's talk about it.
Dude, shit's about to go fucking down, man. I'm kind of worried.
I think so too. Here's why. Putin is now backed himself into a corner. Okay, the most important development of this war since it happened is that Putin has annexed portions of Ukraine, eastern portions of Ukraine, which means that he has, through legal measures in Russia, claimed these portions of Ukraine as Russia's, right? They are now Russia's in the eyes of Russia, officially. Meaning, if anything were to happen in these territories, it would be an attack on Russia in the eyes of Russia. So why is that important? Well, it's important because Ukraine is now making tremendous advances in this war. They are getting victory after victory after victory after victory. It's looking terrible for Russia right now.
They're pushing into Russia now. They've been on the defensive this whole time. They're on the offensive now on the eastern coast, and it looks like they're amassing a bunch of people down south to do something very similar.
Right. Exactly. And so what Russia has said is, okay, now these territories are ours. If you go on the offensive here, then that has now given us justification to up the ante because now you're in Russian ground, right? And you might be thinking, well, who gives a fuck? They invaded Ukraine. And you're right.
Right.
Okay, you're right. You're not wrong. However, we're talking about, a global superpower, Russia. And if you do not respect who that is, and you just go full bore and say, fuck them, then what you're doing is you're continuing to kindle you're throwing fuel on that kindling, and you're making this fire way bigger than it was previously, right? That just because Ukraine was invaded and this offensive is going on currently, and they're taking back, quote, the land that was taken from them. Fine, but you have to remember they have United States backing. Almost all of their weaponry is from United States and NATO territories, and so Putin has said, "This is now giving me justification to increase my offensive." So, at the end of the day, who's in this for peace, right? Mm-hmm. And does that mean that we make concessions? Just because somebody has the upper hand and it makes it unfair doesn't give you justification to continue forward. If you know what the outcome may be, nuclear options are options. They are on the table. They have mobilized nuclear warheads towards the front lines of this war.
This is my question, though, because if Russia keeps going on doing as they're doing, they're going to try. I mean, their military, it's not working. Their military is losing. They don't have support. Once Ukrainians broke through their front lines, they found that there's not much back there to stop them from continuing to move forward. That's why they're doing so. So I have to admit at this point, I have to assume at this point that the Russian military is very slim. So it's like Russia knows if any war they go into, they're not going to have a military to fight back with. Like, this is at a point going to become a nuclear war. So they're either going to try to take over all of Ukraine and hope, like, I guess the rest of the world will hope they'll be happy with that, or it's going to go nuclear. Like, I don't see how it doesn't, because at a point, Russia's going to have no soldiers left to fight with. The only thing they'll have left to fight with is nukes. Right.
So if your opinion of Vladimir Putin is that he is a soulless monster who's willing to go into another country and invade them, right? What makes you think that he's going to graciously accept defeat?
No,
or that he cannot save face? It has to be shown that there is a victory in this for Russia, or Russia will not stop. And who is going to stop them? Because the option is that the United States and its allies get fully thrown into this war. And that is a real possibility, because Ukraine just this past week has asked for a fast track acceptance into NATO, which took the Biden administration completely by surprise. They were scrambling when they heard this news, and they were not happy about it. So they're going straight up and saying, all right, we want a fast track acceptance into this organization, which would mean immediately all of NATO allies are now involved in this war in certain terms. They're in it. Boots on the ground. That is the agreement. So it's okay. So here are your options: full scale war with Russia, nuclear attacks, or a negotiated peace deal where Ukraine definitely loses some of their territory. The point here is that there's no good option. There's only a lesser of evils. And there needs to be very sober thought into this. I know it's unfair, and I know this guy's an asshole, and I know that he's invaded a country, and it's caused an unmeasurable amount of pain, suffering, and death. This is true. But there's nothing good about escalating this to the point where, what is it? At what cost do we defend these portions of Ukraine? Right? At what cost do we say they need to have this territory back, and where we don't negotiate a deal where Putin looks like he's won because he's gained territory, Ukraine has won because there's peace, their people are not done, and they don't have to be at war with Russia. I don't know, man. To me, it's easy for me to say here when I'm not in the throes of, but I don't see another option except negotiated peace, and that is going to mean that Putin and Russia save face, and on the global stage look like they come away as victors. It has to be that way, or there will be escalation to the point of nuclear war. To me, there's no other option.
Well, yeah, and it sounds like it's very close. Like, I know Ukraine's asking us for some like anti-ballistic, some kind of in long range like weaponry as well, but like some kind of defense stuff to go along with that. And Russia said that if we do that, they're going to see that as escalation and act very, very swiftly. To which we let them know we would do the same. But what a lot of people think would happen is that they would nuke our main military base in Germany. Which, if that happened, we're in a really bad situation, but, and it's going to escalate very, very quickly from there. But my question is, if Putin says, like, if they don't join NATO, and this is still just Ukraine versus Russia, and Putin's military is really depleted, doesn't have much left to do, or, he's got to make a move, doesn't want to come to any kind of peace with them, and he goes and he nukes like Kiev, what do we then get involved in that? Like, once a nuke's used without like permission, whether it's NATO, you're like any kind of alliance involved, but like if a nuke is used on the Earth's soil,
I wouldn't say that, like in general in any portion of the world, if that event happens, yes. But NATO has come out and said if Russia uses nuclear weapons in Ukraine, that will mean a full-scale NATO war against Russia.
Okay, so whether or not Ukraine's in NATO or not, they're still going to act.
Yeah, so that is
okay,
that
gotcha.
is yes. Wow. So that yeah, 100%. So that's what I'm saying, man. Like, at what cost to us is it worth it that we continue going forward here? And I will not listen to anybody who wants to tell me that this is about freedom or sovereignty or any. Fuck off. You don't care about that. The United States doesn't care about that. That is not why we're there. We're there because Russia's our enemy, and we have decided to play puppeteer with Ukraine. That's it. That's all it is. And Ukraine does not get here without the billions and billions of dollars that we've already spent to provide them aid and arms and everything. So I don't know, man. It doesn't. It doesn't look great.
Yeah, I'm terrified, man, because I mean, in my head, I see Kiev go down, and then I either see we nuke all of Russia, pretty much as the world, I guess. But then they're tightly allied with China and North Korea. Do they fire back on us, take out all our major cities, and that's it? Like, dude, that could happen so swiftly and actually for real. Like, it's terrifying to think about, especially in a war that, like, technically we're not involved in, but we really are extremely involved in.
Uncharted territory for sure. And I don't think Putin or anybody would pretend that they know what the heck the next step is, right? Like, it's assured too much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I still think we're far enough away that we could bring ourselves from the brink, right? I don't know that anybody really wants that.
Do you see? I mean, who do you see swallowing their pride? I don't think it's going to be Russia, and I don't see Ukraine for all the blood and sacrifices they've made defending their homeland. Them just accepting that they've lost a chunk of it either in the guise of global good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't pretend to know the answer to that. I do think that the first step has to be. It just has to be talking. You cannot figure out what the solution is for somebody if you do not come to the table and discuss it.
Right.
And that's just how it has to be. If that, you know, if they're not, I mean, and Putin said he's willing to negotiate. He came out and so let's negotiate. At least get to the table and see what we can do. You know, make in good faith, make that effort. Let's switch gears here back to the United States and Georgia. There's a Senate race in Georgia, as you may or may not know. And the great Georgia Bulldog Herschel Walker is the candidate for senator against Democrat Raphael Warnock. Have you heard anything about Herschel Walker this week?
No, I haven't. No,
man,
not at all.
This guy's a moron. I mean, I just don't know why conservatives or Republicans just continue to nominate just complete pieces of shit. So Herschel Walker is just a bona fide liar. Like everything that he said in the campaign has been more or less a lie. He's not articulate. He can barely get a point across. He's just a terrible candidate, but he's a big name. He's recognizable. So there's a woman that comes out and says, "Hey, I know this guy's running on this platform of like zero abortion and full pro-life and this, that, and the other, but he paid for my abortion in 2009. And I have the literal receipts of this. So she had the check that her to pay for it. He even sent her like a get well card saying, "Hope you feel better soon." She had the receipts from Planned Parenthood, and whoever's running this guy's account is a moron, or running this guy's campaign is a moron, because this is a perfect opportunity to be righteous and to come out and say, yeah, you know what? I did pay for this woman's abortion. And guess how many nights of sleep I got after that? 0. I couldn't live with myself. I was torn up inside, and I had to go seek help. And I saw the light, and instead of wallowing in my self-pity, I decided to evangelize for life, because I have 4 babies of my own. And why is this one any less important than the ones that are here on earth? And now I've made it my mission to this is complete bullshit. This is a lie. She's lying. It's like, it's obviously not dude.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's obviously true.
Yeah.
It's obviously true.
Yep, that would have been the best way to save that. You should be a fucking campaign manager, man.
You know where to find me.
Look at you.
I don't. So that's one thing, right? And then his son, he comes out and basically was like, "Look, I told my dad not to do this because a bunch of shit was going to come out, and I'm not going to sit here and defend him because he was a piece of shit father." Basically, is what he was saying.
I stayed silent as the atrocities committed against my mom were downplayed. I stayed silent when it came out that my father, Herschel Walker, had all these random kids across the country, none of whom he raised. And you know my favorite issue to talk about is father absence. Surprise, because it affected me. That's why I talk about it all the time, because it affected me. Family values, people. He has 4 kids, 4 different women, wasn't in the house raising one of them. He was out having sex with other women. Do you care about family values? I was silent, lie after lie after lie. The abortion card drops yesterday. It's literally his handwriting in the card. They say they have receipts, whatever. He gets on Twitter. He lies about it. Okay, I'm done. Done. Everything has been a lie. And so for the right to say I'm being suspicious for saying, hey, I'm done with the lies, when you all have been calling me saying, is this true about your dad? Gosh, we're not going to win Georgia, this candidate, all. That's been you. You have no idea what I've been through in my life. You have no idea what me and my mom have survived. We could have ended this on day 1. We haven't. I haven't told any stories. I'm just saying, don't lie. Don't lie on my mom. Don't lie on me. Don't lie on the lives you've destroyed and act like you're some moral family man. Y'all should care about that, conservatives. And then for people on the left to act as though I'm responsible for all of the things that he has done. I've talked about Father Epps. I've talked all these issues because they've been close to me, because they matter to me, because I went through it. That's why I've talked about it. So when you say, well, talk about your dad, but I'm saying this behavior is atrocious. Don't come for me. You don't have to like my politics. You don't have to like me. You don't have to. I'm just saying I'm done with the lies.
Damn.
Bro.
Sucks that your son comes out and says that shit about you.
He's verbalizing that shit really well, but Herschel Walker fucked that dude up, man. He was speaking from a place of pure emotion there, bro. I kind of feel bad for that dude.
Yeah, same. And I think it's so interesting because he is like a super conservative activist. People on the left do not like him at all. Call him an election denier. Call him, Herschel Walker's a moron. And I wish not just Republicans but Democrats and all parties would just choose better candidates. Just choose better candidates. Like, why do we have to pick celebrities? Why do you have to pick the flashiest, the star? Like, they're obviously the most flawed. Yeah. I don't know when we're going to learn our lesson. And what sucks about it is, like, if you're a Georgian Republican, you're going to be like, well, what am I going to do? Am I going to vote for Raphael Warnock? Like, this guy is, he's about abortion until the kid's born. So, like, what am I going to do? Right? If that's an important issue to me as a voter, what am I going to do? I have no choice but to vote for Herschel Walker and then primary him in 6 years. It just puts everybody in a really, really tough, sticky situation.
It's because we're not voting for people anymore. We're voting for parties. That's right. That's the probs. That's the probs. Oh, something happened in baseball this week.
Oh yeah, man. Well, playoffs start today. Actually, the Indians are an hour into their game right now.
You mean the Guardians?
Oh, gosh, excuse me.
Wow. Canceled.
Don't cancel me. The Guardians. But yeah, something happened this week that in 1998 would have gotten a heck of a lot more press, but because baseball has dropped off dramatically in the American psyche, I feel like it didn't get a ton of play, but Aaron Judge hit his 62nd home run. And that's important because the American League record up until this point has been 61 home runs, set by Roger Maris in 1961. Yeah, in 1961. So here is how it sounded on Yankees radio.
Swung on. There goes. Deep left. It is high. It is far. It is gone. Number 62 to set the new American League record. Aaron Judge hits his 62nd. All the Yankees out of the dugout to greet him. Just think of it. 3 Yankee right fielders. The Babe hitting 60 and 27. The Jolly Roger hitting 61 and 61. And now Aaron Judge hits his 62nd home run, the most home runs any American leaguer has hit in a single season. And the American League has been alive for 120 years. This is Judgment Day. Case closed.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Always better on radio.
The best thing from all of that I saw, man, and they did show it during the broadcast, kind of them hugging, but there's a video I saw, it's an ISO of Aaron Judge's mom. Mm-hmm. And I think she had been going to like all the games leading up to, obviously wanting to be there. And you see the ball get hit and she's kind of watching it, like clutching or like whatever. And then it goes out and you just see like this like wave of relief, I think, rush over, but just like pure joy, happiness, like proudness, and it made me think, like, as a new dad, you're gonna be a dad in like a fucking week, dude. Like, how pumped are you? Maybe it won't be on the scale of your kid, maybe it will be, but like on the scale of your kid hitting, a record-breaking home run. But like, to feel that kind of shit, like when you see your kid do some shit in sports or in a play or like whatever it is, like that was the coolest thing to me out of this entire thing, was just like watching that reaction. I don't know. You
better be on that scale or I'm a Herschel Walker's ass. No, dude. Yeah, absolutely. I think about that all the time because like, and this guy, I think he's from like Chico, California.
Oh, okay.
Or like Fresno or somewhere in like the Central Valley. You just grow up and you never think about breaking a record of this magnitude, right? Like, it's such a giant thing to do. And yeah, man, just the overflowing of pride and admiration for your seed to do something like that. And I don't know. I couldn't imagine. I just couldn't.
So here's my question on this whole record, though. So everyone keeps saying American League, because it seems like he legitimately, I mean, I don't know shit about Aaron Judge, but it seems like he's just a fucking animal, and he legitimately broke this record. Because the reason they keep saying American League is because when you go and look at the National League, there are people that have hit more home runs in a season. There's 3 of them. Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds. All 3 accused of and pretty much found guilty of cheating.
The only one not to admit to it is Barry Bonds.
Sure, but I mean, come on now. We've seen those.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying.
He's just
there's a strong indication that he probably did do something. Most people of the time where like I can't really fault the guy. I'm just saying. In your head at all, did Judge just break the all-time home runs record, like for real, or do you got to give it to these guys that did it on steroids?
I don't know, man. It's tough. For some people, it's not tough at all. It's like there's no question about it. This is the new home run king, and I get it, and I respect your opinion on that. I don't know. It's tough because they had help.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
That other folks may not have had, right? Like for example, Roger Maris probably wasn't taking steroids. I don't know for sure, but he probably was.
Smoking cigars and drinking whiskey would be my bet.
You know. So, yeah, dude, I don't know. It's tough. I still like really respect the baseball player that like Barry Bonds was, and that to some extent Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa were. I don't know, man.
It's a tough question, man. I just know because you're tough. A baseball, that's like your thing. In my head, Aaron Judge just broke the record. Like those guys cheated. I don't think that it should count as much. If Reggie Bush lost his fucking Heisman Trophy over fucking what he did, I just to me, it's like those guys clearly did cheat. Whether it was just a thing of the times or what. But it's like this guy, I don't think he cheated at all. I think he is actually just like a sensation. I got to give him his props. I feel like.
It's just that there's no defined like where do you draw the line? How tarnished are their stats and their records and their careers? If you're not going to recognize Barry Bonds as the home run king at 73, then can you recognize any of his stats? Do you know what I mean?
But isn't he not in the Hall of Fame for that reason?
No.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so in the eyes of baseball, those stats shouldn't be recognized. Like, I don't know why they kind of play this.
Then strike them.
Yeah, right.
Then strike them, then do it, right? Like draw the line, make that the thing, and then say, like, yeah, he did these things, but he was using performance enhancing drugs. So we do not recognize any of these stats at all. None of them. They don't exist. Wipe them away. Make that the penalty for this, so that not only are you disencouraged, but you will be erased from the game if you cheat.
Right.
That's how I see it. But if you're going to tiptoe this line, then then me as a fan, I'm going to be more inclined to say like, well, it's still really fucking hard to hit a baseball.
Right.
Yeah, you had help, but you still had to make contact, right? Like not any meathead can go up there and hit home runs. And so I don't know, man. It's tough for me. I think if you're not going to take the stance completely on one side, then you got to let Mark or Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame. You just have to. Yeah,
that's what surprises me when I look up and see the standings and all 3 of those guys are up there. Is Sammy Sosa in the Hall of Fame? Did they?
No,
they didn't. Okay, I didn't know what the cork bats or whatever. So to me, it's like if you're not going to let them into the Hall of Fame, you're not actually like giving credence to what they achieved in those records. So you either need to, like you're saying, get rid of the records, strike them from the game, or bring them into the Hall of Fame, man. And that was part of the times, and let's move on.
Yeah, and I think it's tough because you have so many different eras of baseball where people were cheating, and it may not be steroids. It could be pine tar, or it could be using greenies,
deflated footballs,
and uppers, or whatever, right? Like in 2000 and 2020, 2021, it is blatantly obvious that the ball bounced off the bat much more than it did in this year. Offense was down across the board. Home runs down across the board. Balls smacked. That in any other, at least in the last 3 years, would have jumped out of the stadium, stayed into the stadium. So it's like, all right, well, baseball, the Major League Baseball is obviously manipulating the equipment that's being used in the game. So they can't go out and say, well, we're going to strike this off because there's so many different variables. I don't know, man. It's just like either you let them in or you don't. And if you don't let them in, then you have to make it full stop.
Yeah.
Boom. You cheated. Sorry, you're out. Your stats do not count. We do not recognize 73 as the most home runs, and that's how it has to be. Because I will have sympathy for these baseball players because it is really hard. Like, why do you cheat?
To win the game.
Because you want to win, right? Like you're an athlete. You're competitive. You're at the highest stage. I feel like people can just excuse it and be like, oh, this guy's a cheater. It's like, do you know what it means to be like a Major League Baseball player? Do you know what it means to be this person? Like, it's so much more complicated than that.
Pat.
And you can uncomplicate all of it by just saying, "Yep, sorry, you guys are gone. You're erased from the game. You have your name is a stain on baseball as it is today, and we do not want you in this game at all. Sorry."
Yeah.
Mark McGwire can't coach.
Yeah.
Right? He's a coach. Right? He can't coach. Sorry, you're out of the game.
Shit, man. Why is gas so expensive, Frank? What happened?
Do we have time for this? So
Make quick.
OPEC. You know who OPEC is?
Sure.
Oil producing
Engineering company?
engineering.
Crips.
What did I say? OPEC? Oil producing engineering comrades.
That sounds Russian.
I think is what it stands for. No, it's a group of oil producing countries, which the world relies on for oil. And they are a cartel as they set the price for oil across the board. And they have just convened and agreed to cut production significantly. And what that means is that a country like the United States, which has continued, actually, take this back, Biden has secretly approved some drilling deals. But a country whose official posture is to not drill for oil and to make it so that we are reliant on renewable energies will feel the pain at the pump a lot. So you can expect a very, very significant hike at the gas pump here in the very near future as oil production begins to draw down, and basic economics will tell you as there is less in production, that means there's less in supply, which means there's heightened pricing. I
read Freakonomics. I get it, Frank.
Oh, you do? Okay. Excellent. Good.
Dude, I forgot to tell you this. When I was in Germany, you pay for gas by the liter there. But so like I get to the gas station, I'm like, oh shit, fuck yeah, gas is $2.38 a gallon, and like then I look, it's in liters, and I think there's 3 liters in a gallon. So I was the actual diesel I was putting in, I was paying almost like €12 a gallon.
Yeah, and it's been that way for a long time, much longer than the United States has been at the prices that we're at.
That's because like their sole line comes from Russia, right?
No. Germany has been on the green initiative. The whole of Europe, really. But Germany is like the spearhead of Europeans' green initiatives.
I had to separate my trash like 5 different ways when I was there.
Did you really?
Yeah, at Airbnb we had like a gas trash, a glass trash, a paper trash, a plastics trash, a biodegradable waste trash, and then just like a diaper trash. Oh my god, dude!
Damn.
And we use one, and some people recycle here. Yeah,
and try and tell me that recycling is not the biggest scam in America.
Right.
So real quick, in California, it used to be like this in a lot of places in the United States, and it might be like this in Illinois, but in California for sure, every single gas station is monitored 24/7. That means that all of the lines that go from the underground tank to the gas dispenser are monitored 24/7. The tank itself is double walled, and there's it's like a thermos, and inside the middle of that thermos is a brine, and that it's a liquid level gauge. So if the brine goes up, that means there's either a leak from the outside or the inside, and if the brine goes down, that means there's either a leak from the outside or the inside.
That's pretty cool.
lines that go from underground up into the dispenser. There's a sump that's a double containment. So if there's a leak from the dispenser and the line of gas, it falls into a protective container instead of into the ground. Everything is monitored 24/7, 365. And the only reason it's like that is because somebody from some environmental board in California took a trip to Germany and saw that Germany was doing this. And they brought it over to the United States, into California. So California actually takes a lot of their cues from the Germans.
We should adopt their highway traffic laws because the Autobahn was sick.
Was it cool?
Dude, it's just awesome because like there's a lot of chunks. People get the misconception that all over the Autobahn there's no speed limit. That's not true. There's just chunks where there isn't. But then like normally the speed limit's like around like 80-ish. But
Gotcha.
The way that they like actually stick to, you know, pass on the left, get over in the right. And then when you have those chunks when it's just nothing and you can cruise however the fuck you want, like that's how you should be able to do it, you know, in general.
You bet.
know. They still give tickets for reckless driving, but all right, enough about that.
Go Padres.
Go Padres. Fuck yeah. Go Padres. I can't wait to see you guys win the World Series this year. It's going to be great when you beat the Dodgers in the second round. Will that feel like the series if you can beat them there?
It would. For sure. I mean, you'd want to continue, but that would be the best.
Fuck yeah.
That the Dodgers didn't win it and was because of the Padres would be a very, very nice consolation to not winning the World Series.
Well, hells yeah. Go buy Gun Your Barrel coffee. Damn good coffee, damn good cause. And go and fuck with our socials if you have anything you want to send to us. Frank, what's the email they send it to? bummerdude.media@gmail.com. bummerdude.media@gmail.com. Am I going to talk to you before I can actually call you daddy, or what do you think?
Maybe if we record early enough next week, due date is in 6 days.
Hell yeah, man. Well, love, thoughts, prayers, good vibrations, whatever you want to say to you and Jack, man.
Thanks.
And we will see all you lovely listeners next week.